Okay, so what's the first priority of an automotive chassis suspension system? I mean, what do you want? What is it there for to start with?
To hold everything together.
Did anybody ever ride a red wagon? You know, like a little radio flyer and all that kind of stuff. And what was the problem that you had with those?
Bumpy.
It was a rough ride. No, I found out if I put dirt in mine, it would go down the hill a lot faster and it'd ride a lot smoother. I mean, I just figured that out when I was a kid. If we loaded up with dirt, it goes down the hill a lot better. Now, pulling it back uphill to drag, you got to dump it out and then bring it back uphill after you load it back up again. But when it's traveling on a straight and level road, when a vehicle on it, the tire contact patches have got to be relatively equal. If any one contact patch exerts a force against the road, it's not exactly counteracted by the others, then the driver's got to constantly steer the car to keep it moving in a straight line. Have you noticed, how many of you guys understand what the different terms of steering and suspension would be? Like one of them would be wander. You ever drove one that wandered?
Yeah, you're going down the road, hit a bump or something, just like dart off.
Well, no, basically, if you're just driving down a flat road, it just keeps trying to go here, there, and yonder. It's not always pulling in the same direction. It may go here, it may go there. It's just sort of like that. And your steering wheel may have a lot of play in it sometimes. And, used to you could adjust the play out of the steering wheel fairly easily with that little screw on the steering box. And there is actually a sheet I give you guys on that.
Wow.
Basically, it's all about stability and control. You want it to be, you want stability and control on a wet surface and a long trip. If you're driving on a long trip with a car that's hard to steer, then it is basically going to wear you out. Have you ever done that? I was driving a little car I had one time down the coast between Sabine Pass and Port Arthur or somewhere. I can't remember where I was, but I drove a long way, with a crosswind, trying to blow the car off the road the whole time. And that will wear you down there forever, having to do that kind of thing. Well, if the alignment or something else is not right, and you're having to fight the thing all the time, and it doesn't pretty much want to, if one's right, it'll kind of want to stay in the middle. If you turn it a little bit, it'll come back to the center a little bit. Anybody remember why it does that? When I turn my wheels to the right, and I let go of it, and when you're moving, it kind of wants to come back to the center. What makes it come back to the center, you know?
Understeer.
Huh?
Understeer.
Well, no, understeer and oversteer is like what happens when things go careen out of control. But I'm talking about there's alignment, there's something in your alignment that causes the car to want to stay, the steering wheel to stay centered, pretty much.
Camber.
Huh?
Raises up the car.
That's it. So he was listening the other day. We were talking about that. That's caster, not camber. And the caster angle is the relationship of the lower and the upper ball joints with each other in a front to back deal, right? So basically, if you've got a lot of positive caster, is what we're talking about there, when you turn the wheels, the car will pick up. And then it's at its lowest point in the middle. And so it's always going to go to its lowest point. See what I'm saying? It's going to pick it up a little bit. But once again, like I said the other day, if you got a car without power steering, you're going to notice that the caster angles are more vertical on those because it makes them easier to steer. But there's also some stuff about that. Well, all of that stuff about the driver being fatigued and the car pulling, or if you've got, pulling for some other reason. Let me say this, pause to say this too. Somebody tell me what can make a car pull. If it pulls to the right or the left, if it's always pulling.
Toe could be all.
Toe could,
Bad
huh?
tire. Bad tire.
She's got a good point. Bad tire, you can have a tire that's bad, or an underinflated tire, or a bad tire, either one. What?
Camber can do it too.
Camber can do it. What else can do it? Remember this. Always remember this. It's always going to pull toward the most negative caster and the most positive camber. If they're on the same wheel, you're going to have one pulling, even if your alignment adjustments are in green. Okay, so viewed from above the vehicle, we're looking at geometric center line. We've actually done this before. Geometric center line of the vehicle. I got a vehicle here with 4 tires. Did you know in some states it's illegal for your tires to stick out past the fenders, they'll pull you over? You know that? But anyway, this is the geometric center line of the car, pretty much. That's what that is.
Why is that?
I think they're afraid it's gonna pick rocks up and throw it at other cars. You know, if it's underneath the fender, if you pick up a rock, it'll hit the fender. But I think in Arizona, it's like that if you, or if it's on, huh?
It was like that in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and if you got stuff piled up above the body on a dump truck, they'll stop you in Texas, because they're not supposed to be piled up above the body, it's supposed to be below the top. Okay, so, but anyway, an imaginary line drawn from the center rear axle of the car straight out in front of it. And the thrust line is the actual direction the rear wheels are steering the car. So, you know, you can actually have, the geometric center line should pretty much be lined up with the thrust line, shouldn't it? And if it's a little out of line, you know, that's when you're going to be driving down the road crooked, like we were talking about. You can also look at thrust line as a line that divides the right and left of the rear wheel toe. So basically, if you've got these back wheels towed in, you remember what I told you guys when you're doing an alignment? You know, you can actually have really bad tire wear problems in the back. When you see tires wearing a screwy way in the back, it's usually going to be related to rear toe. Well, now there is some camber adjustments in the rear. Why do we not have caster adjustments in the rear? Because the rear wheels ain't steering it, right? The caster is only pertinent on wheels that steer. Camber and toe can be on wheels whether they steer or not. All right, so here's what you got. You got these here tires in the back, and since you're going to be hanging your heads on them, always remember this. Everybody remember this. Here's your heads hanging on the wheels. You better look at these back ones first before you look at the front ones, because if these back ones are off, regardless of what you do to these front ones, you know, if you just do there was years ago, a long time ago, whenever most every car out there was rear wheel drive, they had a lot of front end alignments were done just on the front. That ain't really a good idea, because you know, if the back is screwed up, you're still not going to have it right. You got to have these lined up, because these right here are the ones that these are shooting from. That's going to take care of that. Center line steering is a level steering wheel position. And whenever my steering wheel is not in the center, you ever drive one when the steering wheel wasn't in the center? You like that?
No.
Don't like it?
No way.
It's annoying. I mean, I kind of want it to be in the middle, but also it has a tendency, if it's bad enough out of center, to cause your gauges to be not able to see, right? And now, here's an interesting thing. On the Dodge four-wheel drives, like in a 91 model, they've just got one big long center link. You know, you got a gearbox, a steering gearbox there, and you got one big long center link that connects the two tires. Okay, so that one big long center link is the only adjustment you have for toe.
Now, if you change it on the gearbox, like you can center the steering wheel on the gearbox.
On that one, you don't. Now you're thinking about a later model. I'm talking about 91 model. They just got one. Okay, you've got a, and basically what I'm talking about is, it's kind of funny how this thing works. It goes, you got right, you know, you're hooked to both, you know, your spindle right here with your tire here, right? And I'm just drawing this real quick. And you basically got one long link hooked to that, and then you're basically you're turning this one with your steering box, and the way you'd have to actually loosen this and turn that to set your toe, but you're setting them both at the same time. How do you center the steering wheel on one like that? Because you know when you're doing an alignment, you're supposed to lock the steering wheel in the center and then adjust. With the steering wheel locked in the center, you're supposed to adjust your toe so that the toe is right when the steering wheel's in the center. You can set the toe without steering the steering wheel, so I mean, without centering the steering wheel, and it won't wear the tires out or anything. But the customer's driving down the road with a crooked steering wheel. They don't like that. It's not professional. Huh?
You can't take it loose from the gearbox, you know, that arm that comes down, you can't take that loose and turn it.
Well, on that one, what the book says is you take the nut off, pull the steering wheel off. It's got lots of little splines in there. You take the steering wheel off and move it and put it back on there.
I know, like, we had a 69 International Scout that was made like that, and that's how you set it on it. The arm would come off the gearbox and you could turn it, put it back on.
Well, now there's another one. The later model Dodges has got a funky link that's coming. I mean, they got this link right here, and then the link coming from the gearbox hooks up like right here. It's got an adjustment on it, and then there's an adjustment on this. So what you do, but the sleeve is over here on this one, but you're supposed to set your toe with the long sleeve and center the steering wheel with this one. You know, you turn that one to get your steering wheel centered. It's nutty how you got to do some of them things, but I will tell you, it's really confusing if you just look at it and try to wing it without, you know, figuring it out. But if you ever see a Dodge like that, I'll say if you got a geometric center line alignment as lining only the two front steering wheels, which is not really very good. Using the vehicle's geometric center line as the only reference, that's an old school approach, and we don't do that anymore. We're adjusting the wheel direction based on the point of reference on the vehicle. That point of reference is critical because it's going to provide the entire basis of the alignment work. The thrust condition always causes the front wheels to steer in the direction of the thrust line, and we talked about that before. You know, at the center of the rear axle, halfway point between the two wheels can be located with disregard for the rear axle design. See, you can basically have the center, the axle centered under the car, and it can still be crooked. See what I mean? If the axle is here and it's like that, you know, see, it doesn't matter where the center of this is. If these wheels are, imagine that with a pivot right in the middle, you got to pay attention to that. Now, somebody tell me one of the non-adjustable angles. Remember we talked about that last week? What's a non-adjustable angle? An angle you cannot adjust. Remember that?
Is that the center line in the
Huh?
vehicle? The center.
All right, I'm going to draw something up here. I want you to tell me what it is. Okay? This is a tire. This is a strut. All right. Now, there is an angle here. There's an angle here. What is this angle called? Anybody remember?
Negative, positive camera.
No, negative, positive camber or something else. This angle right here is one you cannot change. You know, unless you run into something, you know? You cannot change it. This one up here is straight up and down. So straight up and down angle is basically what it is. And that straight up and down angle is how your, you know, camber, that's the benchmark for your camber. But what is this one here?
Thrust angle?
Huh?
Was it the thrust?
No, that's the one that's through the middle of the car. This one's gonna be on, you know, looking at the front of the car.
That's how they got like shocks mounted in there, right? You
Yeah.
talking about like if one was wrecked, you could put washers and stuff in there.
Yeah. Tell me what SAI means. SAI. What's that? What stand for? This is a verbal exam. Somebody talk to me. Everybody gets a 0. SAI. SAI. You remember? Steering axis inclination. You got it? Now, what is the steering axis? Somebody tell me what the steering axis is. Everybody's supposed to know that. I mean, you're supposed to be able to intelligently discuss this. And I've talked before about how if you go to work for somebody, they're liable to ask you, you know, like if a guy sits down and if this guy's going to hire you somewhere where part of what you're going to be doing is going to be alignments, he's going to say, can you do a steering axis adjustment on my pickup or whatever, you know? I don't know. Well, if you say, no, that's not an adjustable angle. Only if you have a frame straightener in a body shop that can pull something that's bent, can you do that? We used to get them all the time from the body shop over there when I was working next to the front end guy. He would get one from the body shop in there, and he would, before they had their frame straightener, that Continental frame straightener they got, and he'd say, this won't line up. He would try to line it up, and it wouldn't line. Couldn't get it lined. And the body shop wanted to know, well, why wanted it aligned? Well, see, they weren't doing anything except making it look pretty, and now the wheels alignment was screwed up because the other stuff was bent. But remember, this is steering axis inclination. Every one of you guys needs to get you a piece of paper and draw that so you'll know what it is. That was one of the things I used to pass out. All right. So now I'm going to give you another term that everybody needs to know. Okay. Somebody define included angle. Anybody know what that is? That is your steering axis inclination and your camber put together, right? There's one thing that's constant. One thing that's constant is their up and down. You know, wherever your tire happens to be, whether it's positive, negative camber, one of the things that you're looking at a plumb bob here, straight up and down. And so basically, if your camber is out this way and your steering axis inclination is in here, then basically between here and here is your included angle. You know, your camber's here, but your camber's gonna be included in that whole equation thing. Now, I've got a ball joint here, and I've got a ball joint here on the ones that's got short, long arm suspension. There's a long control arm, there's a short control arm. They're both hooked to the frame. My tire is right here, right? This line that I draw through both of those ball joints is my steering axis. Why do we call that a steering axis? What is an axis? Anybody know what an axis is?
It's where the steering goes from.
Huh?
It's the center point of the steering.
Steering point of something that turns, whatever it is. The axis of the Earth is drawn straight through the middle of the planet. It turns around an axis. Things turn around an axis, right? Okay, so the fact that your steering axis is there. Now, that's seen from the front. Now, remember this. I got to draw this so you guys can burn it in. One of the things that really gets to me is how we can go over this and go over this and go over this and go over this. Adam Snap was saying he had the same problem. You go over stuff and go over it and go over it and go over it and tell them. You think everybody's listening, but they get you tuned out. Even if they're not playing with their phone, they're not paying attention because they're thinking about something else. And then you ask them later to tell this to you, and they can't. I don't know, you know. But there will be a price for not knowing it at some point. It's just, but this right here is your caster. Or would that be the front of the car? We're drawing the line through the ball joints, right there. That's the front of the car, and this is gonna be your wheel. And that steering axis right there can go this way and that way now. But in fact, if this bottom one is farther in front of that one, what is that? Is that positive or negative caster?
Negative.
That's not going to be positive. It's going to be positive because farther back it goes, the more negative it is. The far farther it goes, the more positive it is. Now, on some of them, and I like these Toyotas and stuff that's got eccentrics on the bottom, so you can adjust it really, really easy because they're on the bottom where they're easy to get to. I don't know why they didn't come up with that sooner.
Talking about the one that's kind of like the oblong.
An egg, yeah, it's an egg-shaped thing, and you loosen it, and it moves that way. I mean, I love it whenever they put that on the bottom because it makes it a whole lot easier to do an alignment. You know, you're just down here and you just set these right here. It's just quick and easy. The Crown Victoria's got a good one because it's got two eccentric right up there on the top. Anybody in here that has not put a vehicle on the lift and done an alignment, you know, probably is going to need to do that. Now they're coming tomorrow to, you know, replace that camera in the alignment machine. But anyway.
Do we need to redo that Nissan that's in there Thursday?
We'll see about that. I'll just have to see if he gets it fixed tomorrow. So basically what we're wanting to do is make sure that to begin with, our rear wheels are in line. Okay, what order should you do your adjustments? You're gonna do the rear wheels, right? If possible, you're gonna look at camber and caster back there. I mean camber and toe, not camber and caster. Camber and toe in the rear. Gonna get that one right. Get those right, and then what order do you do them in the front? Who remembers that? Some of you guys have done alignments already.
Camera.
No, caster, camber, and then toe. You do your caster adjustment first. Now, when you're doing a caster adjustment, let's look at the upper control arm because that's where a lot of the ones are at. I'm gonna take my upper control arm. There's a ball joint here, and you can move it here and here. Okay, this is the front. Okay, if I'm gonna change my now the lower ball joint is down here. Now we got a little parallax going on here. Okay, with that lower ball joint, this is the lower joint, this is the upper one that you're actually gonna be moving on this particular vehicle. All right, what would I do if I wanted to make the caster more negative on this?
Bring it out.
Bring what out?
Both sides.
No, that's camber. That'd make camber more positive. If I move this ball joint out, I'm making camber more positive. If I move it in, I'm making camber more negative. If I move it back, I'm making caster more positive. If I move it forward, I'm making caster more negative. So how am I going to move it with these two adjustment points?
Maybe turn the back of it out. Leave the front one tight or snug and take.
So if I leave this one alone and I move that one, let's say this right here, I can't even do that with my hands. How do I do that? You know what I'm saying? If I take this one and move it this way, this is going forward, isn't it? On that triangle. If I move this one this way, that's going to move forward, isn't it? I'll leave that one alone, I move this one this way, that's gonna go forward. I leave that one alone, move this one this way. Now I can also move that one in and leave this one alone, make it go forward. But if you're already at the end of your adjustment, you've done all you can do, and you need to go farther in that direction, you've just done all you can do.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
are you supposed to tighten up the two top bolts with impact after you loosen them?
Well, some people do, but I mean, it's best to do it with a, good strong
'Cause I
arm.
was wondering if that might be why my front end got out of line.
Well, I mean, as long as it stays in place when you tighten it, I mean, it's just most of the, you don't usually see a front end man doing an alignment using impact wrench. Most of the time when they do an alignment, they're doing everything by hand. That's just the way that goes. Now, always remember that. Now, if you're actually, think about this, if you're on the bottom, if you're adjusting the bottom one and the top one is fixed, one or the other is going to be fixed, then you're going to be doing it. You're going to be moving it accordingly. Now, watch this. Here's something else you may see. All right, how many of you guys have seen the, wait a minute, I screwed that up. The two holes. All right, come in. Hey, man. The two holes on there, and you got your spindle here. And all that. All right, you got your spindle. Whenever you take this strut off, and this afternoon, I want you guys, some of you guys to be working on pulling a car like maybe that Oldsmobile or something in here. Get a strut off and show it to me, and I'm going to have you tear it down and put it back together. Okay? Anybody can do that if you're not already working on something. Anybody that's not working on anything needs to take a strut off and tear it down this afternoon. Doesn't take that long. You need to know how to do it. If you try to dodge that worksheet, also there's ball joints we need to replace. We need to do some of those too. You know what I mean? Everybody needs to know how to do that. But anyway, they'll have a slotted hole in here to make it go in and out. You understand what I'm saying? If they don't have a slotted hole, what would this be? If I'm looking at the tire right here, and my strut is there, what am I going to adjust with a slotted hole here?
The bottom, probably.
No, I mean, what angle am I adjusting?
The camber.
Camber. So some of them won't have a slotted hole, and you'll need to make a slotted hole. Some of them, they've got a little kit that you buy that's got a sort of an offset bolt, and whenever you turn that, it moves it in and out. So just be aware of all that. Sometimes you have to buy a kit from the parts store to make all this kind of stuff happen.
I've seen those ones that have a little slip on.
Okay. All right, that was a quickie, and I hope everybody got something out of that, but I'm probably going to be asking you questions. I may walk up to you out there and just ask you to explain something to me. Burn this stuff in. It's going to be on YouTube if you want to watch it again. Of course, if it bored you to tears the first time, it probably will the second time, right? But anyway, look into that and make sure that you understand those angles, because everybody needs to know everybody needs to understand that's what you're here for. And if you don't understand it, then you need to get to where you do. Now, you're going to learn some of this on those interactives, so make sure you do that too.